Okay, it's really going. I know if you want to be in the office to switch and then bring me up.
I'll see you next week, Joe.
All right, Richie, I'll see ya.
Yeah, I'm starting to get a little hungry. We're gonna hang around. I'm starting to get a little hungry. It's not too good. I wind up getting a headache.
All right. You got to watch your blood sugar. Okay, it's over. Oh, thank you. Good evening. I'm Joel Baird, General Manager of Missoula Community Access Television. We wanted to take this time to allow people in Missoula to create a public forum if they wanted to over the telephone lines. Essentially, my role tonight would be to just accept your calls. If there is to be a conversation at all, it would be generated by listening to the callers that call in previous to a call that you might make. The topic of discussion, of course, is September 11th terrorism. If people want to start calling in, they can do so now. The number is 542-6228. We're going to just wait and see if people do want to call and a conversation gets going, or people just want to vent or offer observations. If that's not the case, then we will revert to our regular scheduled program, Theater Vision, His Girl Friday, which is described for the visually impaired. I'm not going to provide any kind of program. I'm just here to field your calls, should anybody want to call, and have no more active role than that. So having said that, we're just going to sit and wait for people to call. If there are no calls within the next, let's say 2 or 3 minutes, we'll revert back to our regularly scheduled programming. So once again, the number here at MCAT is 542-6228. It's Wednesday, September 19th, a little after 8 o'clock. Okay, I'll repeat the purpose of the program for people that are channel surfing. This is an attempt by MCAT just to provide an open forum for people in Missoula to call in about their thoughts or concerns, or to have a conversation via the telephone line with other Missoulians about the events surrounding September 11th in New York and Washington, D.C. If people want to call, now is the chance to do it. If you want to create a conversation, as I've said before, it would be related to listening to the callers that called in before you and making comments on theirs. I'm not going to provide any particular point of view whatsoever. I'm really here just to facilitate the opportunity should someone want to call. So the number at MCAT is 542-6228. There are only 2 lines here, so if you do call, you might be in a hold situation if someone is speaking, or you might find that the line is busy, in which case you'll go to the answering machine. I've also, I'm able to write down and repeat if anyone has any events that are upcoming surrounding the terrorist attacks that they want the rest of the community to know about. There's an opportunity to call in and let us hear from you. Again, I'm going to wait a few more minutes to see if people channel surfing want to call in and voice their opinion, or ask questions generally of other Missoulians who could then call in and respond to that. The number is 542-6228. We'll wait on this for a little while. As I mentioned, we have regularly scheduled programming here at MCAT that's going to resume if we find that no one is calling in. So once again, I'm just going to wait here for a little while longer. I'll repeat again the purpose of the program, and if no one is calling in, then we'll go back to our regularly scheduled program. Okay, I'm assuming we have calls. I don't know. If I see one line is blinking and another line is blinking, if someone on staff wants to go to the window where I can see them and indicating that they have calls, I'm looking there now to see if there is a call, and I'm not sure. Okay, apparently there is. Caller? Caller, you're on.
Yeah, Joel, I guess I'm the first one, eh?
Yeah, it's always hard to be the first
the
one.
only thing that bothers me is I hope they don't rebuild there at the site in World Trade Center another 100 and some odd floors. I think, that they should keep it rescuable, those poor firefighters and all, and but then that's my basic concern is they don't build that thing, 200 towers and say yes, see what we can do. But on the other hand, if I was in Afghanistan and I had a pistol, I'd shoot that sucker, what's his handle, and I'd get the reward. What is it, 8 million or something?
I haven't even heard. So, and if I do, I'd pretend ignorance. I mean, if that's what you want people to know, maybe you should explain that in more detail.
Well, there's a bounty on his head, it's 8 million, 5 million, something like that. I think that would be entice enough for one of those poor souls to make a buck or two, but, you know.
Okay, well, thank you so much for calling and being brave enough to start us out. I see there's someone on line 2, so I'm going to switch to that.
Okay, well, I'll tune in there to see what they got to say.
All right, thank you so much for calling.
Thank you much. Bye.
Hi, caller, you're on the air now.
Yes, thank you. I would like to discuss the American media coverage of the current events and why no one seems to be mentioning the United States' past foreign policy in regards to maybe why we've made ourselves a target for terrorist attacks.
And what would you like to see there? What would you like to see happen?
Well, I guess I'd just like to see some more at least enlightenment and acknowledgement of the fact that, there seems to be polarization that we're good and angelic and it's someone else that attacks us or has anything bad to say about us is evil. And it doesn't seem that some Americans, and at least the media, aren't looking at the fact that we have a long history of some foreign policy decisions and acts of aggression that might have, instigated some of this anger towards us.
So you would like to see the American public be more informed as to why there is this hatred of the United States abroad, or some more explanation as to why something on this scale could occur.
Right. They don't seem to be asking the right questions. They don't seem to be discussing any of those issues, even though any good journalist or a lot of these journalists should, know better, but they seem to want to propagate hatred instead and get everybody up into a lather about wanting to go into war or attack the Middle East. And I don't think that they're being realistic journalists and showing both sides of the story, which real journalists should.
Right. Okay, and I don't want to cut you off. I just want to remind people that this is a live call-in show that we're sponsoring here at MCAT. I'm not going to take any particular point of view at all other than to just try to facilitate people calling in. I see we don't have another call. If people do want to call, the number is 542-6228. Sorry, so go ahead. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, well, basically that's all I'd like to say, and just that it's a shame that that more media, and if through the media, maybe more Americans could get that point of view of our participation and instigation of the Gulf War, and we killed a lot of civilians over there, and maybe some of these terrorists had families that were killed in some of these of our foreign policy that we've had over the last decade. And that doesn't mean that I'm at all justifying what went on here, and that does not justify terrorist activities. I just tend to think that world. We were like a big family, and like any family, everybody fights, and everybody has a part in that fight. It's just not one person's wrong and not one person's right. There's things that your sibling did to you in the past that you might be angry and you still hold a grudge over, and it's just it's not black and white. There's reasons. So to polarize everything to where we're really good and they're really evil is just very depressing to me.
Okay, well, thanks so much for calling in.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye. Okay, I'll just remind people again that this is a local Missoula call-in show about the issues of international terrorism, about what happened in New York and Washington last Tuesday. If anybody does want to call in, the number is 542-6228. And then I'll mention again that Missoula Community Access Television is here to provide access for Missoulians to other Missoulians. And we thought that there might be a need to have a forum where people could express their opinions that was locally based, because I know a lot of people could watch and have watched hours and hours of programming about these terrorist attacks in the last 8 days, but we wanted to provide an opportunity for people to discuss the issue locally and have a Missoula identity about it. So again, if someone wants to call in, the number is 542-6228. This is a live program on Wednesday, September 20th. We're getting on a little after 8 o'clock. And also, we don't know necessarily the need people have to want to express stuff on a local level. So having said that, I'm just going to rest here a little while, and if anybody wants to call in, they can. If we find that there are very few calls or the calls are slowing down, then we'll go back to our regularly scheduled programming, which is a movie described for the visually impaired, His Girl Friday. So I see that we don't have anyone on the line now. I'll just wait a little while. Again, I'll repeat the purpose of the program in about 30 seconds. If we don't have any calls, maybe I'll wait a teeny bit while and we'll return to our regularly scheduled program. Okay, I can see that we're putting our number on the screen. This is a call-in show that we're offering as a service to the Missoula public on Missoula Community Access Television. It's a live show on Wednesday, September the 20th. We're just opening this as a telephone forum for people that want to call in. If they do want to call in and air your views or give announcements, if there are meetings or gatherings or other events that you want the public to know about, this is an opportunity to do that. It's a program with no particular point of view. In Missoula Community Access Television, we train people in making their own television programs, or we facilitate the playback of imported television programs. It is our goal to remain as neutral as possible in providing this service. So that's the reason I'm just here. I didn't provide a panel of experts or people making statements that you can respond to, because we're doing this show, as a staff, as an administration, as a public service, and we patently do not want to have a point of view or use this station for our own purposes at any time. So if you do want to call in, the only restriction is that this call-in show is restricted to topics of the international situation, reactions to the attacks on the U.S. last Tuesday, September 11th. If anybody wants to call in, this is their opportunity to do so. So if you're channel surfing and wondering what the show is about, that is its purpose. So you can see the number is on the screen. Again, I'll wait maybe 30 seconds. If we don't have any calls in that time, then we will revert to our regularly scheduled programming, a feature film from Cary Grant. It's His Girl Friday, which is described for the visually impaired. So there's the number on the screen. If anybody wants to call in to vent or make any observations or make any announcements about events going on in Missoula related to the attacks in New York and the Pentagon in D.C. The number is 542-6228. And we haven't had any calls in a while, so I guess I'll say to Lori that we'll wait 30 seconds and then we'll switch back to our regularly scheduled programming if nobody wants to call in. It looks as though someone is calling. I'm just going to check to see whether this call is intended for this forum. I'm just looking to see if a staff member is going to show me that it is. It looks like that call was dropped. So we'll wait about 30 seconds if anybody wants to call in. This is your opportunity. I know some people are shy about voicing their opinion, and sometimes it takes people calling in to get started, but we did have that. We had a few calls, and now we're not, so we'll wait about 30 seconds and then return to our regularly scheduled programming. I would just like to take this opportunity to remind people that Missoula Community Access Television is here to facilitate community exchange, community forum, so that if someone watching now, for instance, would like to get in touch with us at the same number to arrange for training or to arrange to show a program, that this is the number to call to make that contact. Okay, there's a call on hold now, and apparently it is for the program, so I will turn them on. Hi, you're on the cable.
Hi.
Thanks for calling in.
I just wanted to call and say that I'm an American and that foreign policy did not dictate killing Americans.
And you're reacting to the previous caller?
Yes.
Okay, and then could you, just for other people that are watching, try to contextualize what you felt they said and your reaction to it?
Yes.
Okay. You felt, tell us what you feel they said, and then you're saying in reaction to that, your comment.
I just didn't feel that it was that. I don't think it's our fault that we were bombed. We can't. I don't think it's right that she's saying that it's us. It's our fault that we get bombed for something that someone else did. It's not our fault that there's terrorists bombing our World Trade Center and wanting to bomb our White House because they don't agree with the things that we do.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I know the previous caller, and I'm not even going to try to rephrase beyond saying, I think they were saying that the situation was really complex and that the people were motivated by some very strong emotional reaction. But I thank you for calling in and adding to that.
You're welcome.
Okay, thanks so much.
Have a nice evening.
All right, bye. Okay, so the call-in is going a little slowly, but it sounds like some people are watching and they're kind of taking stock of what other people are saying. So, you know, I'll just try to have patience if viewers can with the dead air time, and wait to see if other people want to call in. I didn't think this part of offering this service out so strongly that it might take people a while to want to get to the phone and actually make a comment. Maybe what I'll do is just summarize. We've had 3 calls. One caller expressed the desire not to see the World Trade Centers rebuilt in the same form or rebuilt with even greater world symbolic grandeur. Another caller called in to say that the situation was more complex and that they felt that there were motivations behind the attacks that no one was examining, and they felt that these motivations did bear examination. And the third caller called to say that they disagreed with that previous call, that that no aspect of U.S. foreign policy could possibly have motivated these attacks. So those are three. That's a little slow. That's true in the world of television, but part of the purpose of public access television, one, is to demystify the process of television and to give it local attributes, you know, so that to call on this program to share your thoughts with other Missoulians, you're not going to wait in a queue of 70 or 80 calls on a national program. We wanted to provide a small forum where Missoula could get a sense of itself, if that's what it was going to happen in reaction to this. I guess I do wish I had worked out a queue system a little better. Maybe what I'll do is just have them, I'm going to say to Lori, who's opening and closing the door, that let's just leave the door open. That's fine. And our television is fairly informal. This way I could see Greg and thank him. He's volunteering to operate the phones for us, and I'll take the next call. Hi, you're on.
Hi, and I was just calling in regards to the third caller there.
Okay.
You know, foreign policy may have played a part in it, the way that maybe we did kill innocent people, but I don't believe that they had the right to come over and do what they did, or in the other countries or anything else. I think that our foreign policy, really, it works for what we need to do. And but as far as putting the blame back on us, that's wrong. I agree with the third caller.
Okay, okay. Is there anything else you want to add? I don't want to cut anyone off or rush them. And as you can see, not a lot of people are calling in. So if there's anything you want to add, just feel free.
Oh, okay. As far as rebuilding the World Trade Centers, I think they should put that into a monument there. I think that they should be remember the people that died there.
Yeah.
Instead of spending billions of dollars rebuilding these. And I don't think that they were important enough to us not to build something in that spot to remember these people.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe because I have you on the line, but you could say you've had enough at any time. You know, maybe I'll stretch you out as a representative Missoulian.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, do you feel you know, that this is a very far away occurrence? I was just thinking of that because we are about 2,500 miles away from where this happened. You know, I guess my question is, did it make you feel more a part of the United States, or that you were facing something that seemed really remote or something like that?
Definitely. It made me feel more like an American.
Yeah.
Because everybody united. I mean,
Yeah.
3,000 miles away is a long ways away. We didn't feel it here because we didn't see it, we didn't feel it, we weren't a part of it. But then after we got to seeing what was going on, we were a part of it.
Right.
And that's how we all, I mean, everybody became united. And I just thought that was really cool, the way it's working out.
Right. And then, I guess we're having another call. So thank you so much for
Thank you.
calling and
Bye.
keeping the ball going. Okay, hi. Oh, sorry, I'll put you on intercom. Okay, now you're on and we can hear you. Thank you for calling.
Hi. I'm calling from here in Missoula, and I just tuned into your show here a minute ago.
Yeah.
I'm from New York, from Long Island. About where I grew up is about 50 miles east or so from New York City.
Sure, Great Neck for me.
And with rebuilding the trade towers, or the whole complex there, if it could be called complex, but I think we should in time, when it's all cleared up and we find everything we need to find and whatnot, I think eventually we should. It's maybe as like others are saying, just to give the message that we're not gonna just tuck our heads between our legs and do nothing, or just let this sort of thing get us down, just pick up the pieces and rebuild.
So you would like to see a similar structure there, or something that sort of indicated that the damage that was done could be taken care of some way.
Yeah, like, maybe not necessarily, it doesn't have to be, they don't have to be built, say as tall as they were before, they could be, or, or maybe, something that's, not so big even, but just, send out a message that, we're, like I say, we're not just gonna tuck our heads, between our legs and do nothing,
Right, right. I understand. Is there anything else you would like to add?
Just, hope they, they find out, whoever, it is that did this, be it Bin Laden or someone else, I mean, just, the parties responsible, just, go out and do what needs to be done, if it, and I don't want to see, a war, but if it comes to that, it comes to that. But if there's some other way, it can be handled.
Right.
That would be, for me, that would be, that would do just as well.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for calling.
Thank you.
Right.
Bye.
Hi, you're on now.
Hi. I just wanted to call and say that I think it's really terrible that it took such a major tragedy to get all of us to be united and want to do all these things together, help our nation. And I think that it's sad that it took all those people dying to make us want to be United States.
Oh, I see what you mean, because now you feel like people are really united, that they're really willing to give of themselves for the victims or for what needs to be done to rebuild a sense of confidence and so on?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything you want to add?
No.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for calling in and sharing with that with us.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, bye.
Bye.
Okay. Well, I'll just explain again. We've had a series of calls, so I don't know that I'd be doing an excellent job of recapping. But the purpose of this program is just to provide a very local forum. This is Missoula Community Access Television. The number you can see on your screen is the number to call if you'd like to call on this show and try to create something of a community dialogue or even a venting blowhole for what a lot of people have been through, even in Missoula in this last week. There have been a number of calls this hour. We are, on the other hand, ready to go ahead with our regularly scheduled programming if people don't want to call. But then again, you can see the number on the screen to call is 542-6228. The purpose of this program is just to provide an open forum for Missoulians to discuss the recent events of the last 8 days and be able to share with each other just on a local level. Yeah, it looks like we have another call coming, so I'll put them on. There we go. Okay, you're on.
Yes, I'd like to respond to the caller about 4 or 5 calls ago who was interested in analyzing the coverage of our foreign policy and sympathetic to the views of the terrorists who committed this terrible act. I guess I wonder if she would have the same kind of feelings if she was on one of those airplanes that was being hijacked at the time. I've heard reports of the flight attendants being found with their hands bound and with their throats slit. And those people were just absolutely terrorized for long periods of time. And I've also heard news reports that we've lost more people in the United States on one day than has ever been lost in one day before, even including battles during the Civil War.
Right, right.
The United States has never had a policy where innocent civilians were targeted.
Yeah, yeah.
Wars where we've targeted military targets and innocent civilians have been hurt and killed, but never has there ever been a policy in this country where innocent civilians have been targeted.
Right. Now, I You know, and I said at the beginning of the program that I wasn't going to take a point of view. I think the only thing I would try to do is to clarify, maybe, you know, from my perception, you know, of what people are saying as they call in. But that's certainly not to take any particular advocacy. It seemed to me that caller was saying, to a degree, that they were hoping that people in the United States were not blinded by a sense of revenge, but that they would look at what would motivate such extreme behavior vis-a-vis American or United States foreign policy. Does that make sense?
No, it doesn't to me. If
Okay.
we try to analyze their behavior and feel sorry for them and try to understand why they did this and don't retaliate, we invite further attacks. And the next thing that will happen is these crazy people will hijack an airliner and run it into a nuclear power plant. And then we'll have a nuclear meltdown, and an area the size of Pennsylvania will be totally dead for 200,000 years. This has to be stopped, and it has to be stopped now. It should have been stopped a long time ago. What has happened is absolutely the worst thing that could happen by any human being upon another human being. I have an associate whose brother is still in the rubble of the World Trade Center, and it is appalling to have somebody call in and sympathize with the terrorists and the barbarians who did this.
Okay, well, thank you very much for the call.
Sure.
Right, bye. Hi, you're on now.
Hi. I just was calling in regards to the man that just called.
Okay.
In my mind, it sounds like he's saying that we need to go to war. But going over there and killing those people, it's not like every single one of those people were involved in what happened to us. And so going over there and killing them, all we're doing to them is exactly the same thing that they just did to us. And I don't think that's right. We can't go accuse every single person and go kill innocent people, because that's just more innocent people that are going to die. There's no reason for that.
Sure. And again, I'm not going to take any advocacy. I think the caller before, I don't know that he was necessarily, you know, saying there should be some indiscriminate retaliation either, but that he was saying that there had to be some action taken, whether or not that was, you know, a sense of payback, or whether he even was talking about, you know, super heightened security measures. I don't know. But is there anything you want to add?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, thanks so much for calling.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Bye. Hi, caller. You're on now.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment about the young lady that just called about killing innocent people. Just like Norman Schwarzkopf said during the Gulf War, it's collateral damage, and that's the way the terrorists thought as well. And anywhere, innocent people are going to be killed, and it's something that we have to do. I mean, America stands for freedom, and we have to show these people that we're not going to stand for what they did, and we have to be united in this. Thank you.
No, thank you for calling. Okay, so we can see that we've got a number of calls. Some people do sound a little nervous, too, in calling. And so I very much appreciate their having the courage to pick up the phone and express their point of view, because I don't think it is a particularly easy thing for people to do. And like I say, I hope I am not advocating anything here. Sometimes I've noticed there's been people are attempting to create a string of conversation through this rather awkward technology we have, and I really appreciate that. And I'm just trying to, you know, because the comments are coming fairly fast, just to put a perspective on what I heard, just in case that opens some avenue in the conversation. But certainly I hope that I'm not advocating a particular point of view. So here's the next caller. Caller, you're on. Thank you for calling.
Hi. I totally agree with the last caller. That's we've never ever, even in the Gulf War, we never ever targeted civilians or anything
Right.
like
so,
that.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that, oh boy.
Well, you could take your time. It's okay. It's not official television. That's part of our point, you know.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is that we have to do something now. That's and don't get me wrong, because we should have done something a long time ago, because there's other countries that have gone through this already with terrorists and everything.
And when you say do something, do you think this situation can be fixed by the use of force?
I don't know if force can fix force. I
Yeah.
mean, because they'll retaliate. But definitely, like the one gentleman said about if we don't show them that we're going to stand up to them, then they will take another plane or anything. They will get to us again. And we have to show them that they're not going to do that. And if we don't, they will. And the world has to show them that we're not going to put up with terrorists.
Right. And when you think of that, this just occurred to me because I feel like, you know, from watching the news, this is something that the Bush administration is very interested in. I mean, do you see a kind of a situation more so now like the U.S. against the rest of the world, or do you think of the U.S. as forming ties, you know, with European nations, with Middle Eastern countries, with South America, you know, kind of like a global thing, or does it, your instinct, it sounds like the way a lot of people are talking in a very us and them sort of way, like U.S. versus the rest of the world or something?
I don't think it's the U.S. against the rest of the world. I think that NATO is going to back us. I think that it's going to be a global war against terrorism.
Right, right.
I think it's going to come down to that, because when they start going after these guys, I don't think they're going to quit. And the rest of the world is going to. It might even not be us going after them and capturing some of these guys.
Right, right.
But I think that everybody's got to back everybody, and I think that's what's going to happen.
Okay, well, thank you so much for calling in. Is there anything you want to add?
$5 million isn't enough on his head.
Oh, and that's what it is. I didn't know. Someone had called earlier and said that there was some kind of a, is that a bounty or?
Yeah, it's a bounty.
I see.
And I think it should be more now, so.
Okay.
I have to say thank you.
Well, thank you for calling.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so there's a moment of quiet in case people are channel surfing. You are watching Missoula Community Access Television. It's our purpose here to train people on cameras and equipment. We check out equipment for people to videotape stuff in Missoula and the Missoula area. We try to provide instruction on the technical aspects of putting together a video program. That's kind of our main function. We also run a small studio that I'm in right now, and we kind of felt it was important. Our basic mission really is to provide a forum for exchange of ideas and emotions among the people in the Missoula area. So we're offering this time, it's Wednesday, September 19th. We're getting on to about 10 to 9. We do have 40 more minutes set aside for this call-in program. I don't know if we'll use them all. I've been thinking that you know, people weren't going to call in and we'd shut down every 3 minutes, and calls have been coming in, not, you know, fast and furious for those of you who have been watching the last 40 minutes. One thing we were trying to do, though, was to provide a local forum where Missoulians could come in to the television picture and create their own conversation on the phone. My purpose really is just to run the phones, acknowledge the callers, and do a little traffic control that way. I want to thank everybody who's called in so far. I mean, I think it is harder for people to express themselves, even through the anonymity, really, of picking up the phone. But we know that it probably has a useful function for people, and particularly because we've all been absorbing media so much in the last 8 days that providing you with an opportunity to at least talk back to the TV in a very local and immediate way might be a welcome change of things to do. So that's the purpose of this program. The number is on the screen. If you're watching this program in a rerun, this happened on Wednesday, September the 19th. So I guess we have another caller, and we'll let them have their speak. Hi, thanks for calling in. You're on.
Yeah, well, you know, I kind of feel that this crisis thing is really upsetting to me. At first I thought, well, maybe we ought to go to war. But I'm kind of second thoughts are on it. I think there's other countries involved. So I think what we ought to do is get all the countries together and seek and search what has caused this problem and why. Maybe our big countries, the United States and Britain and the rest of them, stuck their nose in where they shouldn't have and caused a problem.
I know one caller called and expressed that view, and I know they were met with, you know, a certain amount of criticism. I think partly because people perceived that they were sympathizing with the attackers, and I don't know if that was the case. I think that they were just sort of saying rationally, if something would drive people to such extreme acts of terror, maybe there is something behind it that bears examination.
Right.
You know, and I can't go much further than that.
These people, you know, in the third world, they've been put under the gun for so doggone long. They don't know what's right and what's wrong compared to what the United States has got. We got it pretty good.
Yeah.
And if we could maybe show them a little bit of peace and maybe a little sympathy, maybe some of this will change. Sure, we're going to have to go after some of the extremists.
Right.
Give the other people a little freedom so that they understand what freedom's about. So, I mean, that's the best I can do. I just hate to see going to war.
Right, yeah.
That reason. I would rather seek with the other countries and maybe try to get sanctions or whatever, maybe help the people, and in some of the people that are wrong, okay, let's go after them then. But let's not go to extreme now.
I think there is a lot of that confusion where people don't, you know, they've been flip-flopping saying this is an act of war, but by who, or it is a crime. And those seem to be very distinct things, very difficult and puzzling, you know, to determine, well, was this a crime or was it an act of war?
Well, that's the whole thing. Look at the United States. Look at how many things that are going on in the United States where they thought it was an act of war, and other groups that are against, say, well, Americans are against them or whatever. We've had our problems outside of Billings and there too.
Oh, you mean like the constitutionalists and the freemen and a lot of people, I guess, thought of Oklahoma City
Hey, if you're going to
bombing.
go over there to other countries, why don't you start there too?
Yeah.
Know, I mean, for crying out loud, you know, how far are we going to go here until we can clear up our own country first a little bit?
Yeah.
And let's put some security down.
Yeah. Do you think more people are willing to give up their sense of anonymity in exchange for security now?
I don't know. Maybe some won't and some will.
Yeah.
It's really hard, you know, it's really hard to say. I hate to give up any of my kind of freedoms for anything, you know.
Right.
But if we have to bear down for a while just to clean up what we got here, let's do it, and let's keep these people out of here.
Okay. Well, is there anything you want to add?
That's all I got.
All right. Well, thank you so much for calling. Right. Sorry, the phone is a little awkward. So for people that are just joining us, Missoula Community Access Television is just trying to provide a fairly neutral forum for people to call us today. It's Wednesday, September 19th. You can see the number on the screen, 542-6228. We just wanted to give people a local opportunity to have access to your television set that's been providing you with so much horrific information over the last 8 days. So if you would like to call in, feel free. We've got 2 lines here. We've got 1 call now, so we'll put them on. Hi, thanks for calling.
Hi, Joe. It seems to me everyone is talking like 50 years late. We live in a totally different world, and responses have been coming in as if this were one country attacking another, and it's not. And I don't know exactly what I have to say, except that we have to start realizing that we live in a world that has changed considerably, and that we need new ways of responding to these things. We need new ways of defining who the enemy is. we need to accept responsibility for our position in the world. And so it's very hard to deal with something that is so new and so radically different when we're still thinking in terms of Pearl Harbor, say, where one country went after us and we knew who to go after. Suppose we wiped out all of Afghanistan. There are terrorist groups in countries that are civilized. You know, do we go after the terrorists in France, let's say, or Japan? It just becomes so complicated, and I don't think I think part of the helplessness is that we don't even know how to think about these issues anymore, or don't have any real standards by which to define what's going on.
Right, yeah. I mean, I guess it has been said, you know, people were so worried that science had outstripped the human intellectual capacity to control it when the atomic bomb technology was discovered. And I guess, in a sense, you're saying the world has become such a complicated, interlocked, and yet alienated place that it isn't the old story of one country trying to dominate another, or Germany trying to carve an empire, that it has to be looked at in a much more complex way.
Basically, yeah. We let thousands of people die, for instance, in Africa because of lack of drugs and water and all sorts of things, and we say that's not our problem. And yet, if any of those people were to turn around and attack our government, then we say that's against us. And I think we have to look at how important we have become in the world and take some responsibility in all these areas. And it just is, it's hard to even think about and define by our old standards.
Okay, is there anything you want to add?
No, I think that'll do it.
All right, thanks so much for calling.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, so we've had a variety of responses. I don't know that I can remember now for people to recap. I know that people have expressed a number of thoughts on the international situation. There seems to be a little bit of a thread that suggests some people are feeling that there has to be a military, forceful retaliation, and yet they're uncertain against whom the retaliation should be conducted. There are others that feel like what happened was essentially a crime, in the sense that there is a relatively small number of individuals to pursue, almost, you know, along legal lines rather than some kind of large military undertaking. In any event, for people that are channel surfing, and I'm sorry to repeat this, but I know that people come to television at all different times, all different hours. They are watching their local public access television station. That's Missoula Community Access Television. We're here providing training and equipment for people in Missoula to create their own television programs with the overall aim in mind of creating a public forum in which the people of Missoula and the area surrounding us can exchange ideas, emotions, thoughts, hopes, and so on. So we thought it was appropriate that we offer this forum for commentary on recent terrorist attacks in New York and D.C. and the subsequent almost overload of information that's been coming out of cable and all media, really, since last Tuesday. So if you are so inclined, if you feel like talking back to your television set and sharing some ideas locally, you are more than welcome to call. It's a little before 9 o'clock on Wednesday, September 19th. The number to call is on the screen. It is 542-6228. And if there is a lull, I'll just wait. As I mentioned before, it seems like there is some appetite to have this kind of discussion go on electronically. I apologize for how clunky it is, in a way, that if Missoulians are going to have an electronic conversation on their own cable channel, and the channel really does belong to Missoulians, it is more a matter of following conversations, but that's not necessarily what you have to do. If you do have an opinion or a new thread you would like to start or a concern you'd like to voice, if you have an announcement for an event, I'll write it down and try to repeat it before we resume our regular programming so more people know about that event. I know at the beginning of the segment we showed a short interview I conducted this morning with Allison Adams, who is bringing the spirit of Jeanette Rankin to life at the Missoula Children's Theater. That program is in progress now. It's probably just wrapping up. It will play again tomorrow, Thursday, September 20th at 8 p.m. It is sponsored by the Friends of the Missoula Historical Museum. So if people are interested, they should contact the Missoula Children's Theater for ticket information on that. We just thought that was particularly timely. I know tomorrow we'll be covering a community discussion at the Jeanette Rankin Peace Center and replaying that. That's going to be more of a group discussion about what people are thinking and feeling, what they feel needs to be done on a local level. So once again, the purpose of this time is to allow you out there in cable TV land that receive the signal for Missoula Community Access Television to call and voice your opinion, concerns, or make announcements regarding the terrorist attacks in New York City and Washington, D.C. last Tuesday. So the phones are pretty quiet. I don't know if people are shy to call in. If you are, that's fine. You do not have to be particularly articulate. That's not what we're looking for. We're really looking just to provide you with this opportunity. So once again, I'm going to wait a little while. I'll explain the purpose of the program. And if we find that we don't have callers, then we will resume our regularly scheduled programming. Okay, it seems we've got 2 calls coming in. I'm sorry. For line 2, I'll take the first caller, line 1. Hi, caller. Thanks for calling. You're on now.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it doesn't seem that President Bush is wanting to have an all-out war. I think that he's doing a good job, and I think what he's wanting to do is just find the people that did this. And I think that the last thing that he wants is to start a huge war, but I just wanted to say that I think he's doing an excellent job, and I've heard people say that, that he's not an eloquent speaker and that he, doesn't have enough experience, but for having as little time in office as he has, for being able to, stand up and do all the things that he's been able to do, I think that he has just really shown that he's an excellent leader, and I think that, he's asked Afghanistan to hand bin Laden over, and, this may kind of sound like a harsh thing to say, but if they don't hand him over, then, it seems like maybe it's kind of on their heads what happened. Because, he's made it clear that he doesn't want a war. He just wants the people that did this to be held responsible.
Right. So like in the discussion, it seemed like the little thread we were having here, is this a crime or an act of war? You would almost see it as a two-part thing, that a country may be harboring a criminal, and so there might be something that resembles a war if that criminal isn't released.
Right, because they're harboring him, and he said, that the country that harbors him, he would make no distinction between them and the people that actually committed the crime. And I believe that they should be held responsible if they're harboring a criminal that did this horrible act. And also people that have called in have said, that we should look at, what we have done to bring this on ourselves. But, I just believe that no difference of opinion and no, difference between two countries should warrant this type of horrible, thousands of innocent people to die for a difference of opinion, or for us, helping the Israelis when, obviously they don't want us to. But, we're so different from them, but we don't go over there and fly planes into their buildings for our differences of opinion. So.
Okay. Is there anything you want to add?
I think that's it.
All right. Well, thanks so much for calling.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Bye.
Sorry, line 2, we lost them, and I think that was my fault. I over pushed the button. So if someone who is queuing up to call, I apologize. If you do want to call back, there's someone to take the call right away. So that last caller emphasized that they felt that the main motivation was a difference of opinion between the United States and Islamic fundamentalist extremists. So that's kind of the last word that we had. And I appreciate that people are calling in. I think it is difficult for people to go to the phone and try to put themselves forward, even, you know, in the relatively anonymous situation of, you know, calling on the television. Okay, it sounds like one is restored, and I apologize again for dropping that call. Hi, caller, you're on. Thank you for calling.
Oh, okay. Hey, great. I had some thoughts. I think that what we got was fortunately kind of a wake-up call here, and I think that it's necessary that we really take some hard military action against this, and I don't think that it's just should be tracking down the particular people involved in this. I think there's an anti-American, anti-Western culture that is threatening our way of life, and I think that it's just a matter of time before the resolve of these people is shown, in a matter of time before they have the capability to completely destroy us. And I think that we need to act now, and I think that we need to take the matter into our own hands, and I think that we need to take some big symbolic action. I think we need to do something like bomb Mecca, take some action, destroy some of their holy sites, and I think it's unfortunate, but I think we're involved in a war here, and I think the only way that we're going to be able to end and resolve this is with some type of total destruction of some of these terrorist states and governments. This isn't just a handful of people here who are, you know, hell-bent on, you know, destroying America. This is a movement within the Islamic culture and the Islamic world. So that's about all I have to say.
All right. Well, thanks so much for calling.
Thank you.
All right. Bye. Okay, so the last caller really felt that the situation was much more grave than categorizing this as a crime, and that obviously they were seeing real strong action needed, and they felt that the use of extreme use of force was the only solution to this apparent crossroads. Again, for people just tuning in, I'll explain the purpose of the program. You're watching Missoula Community Access Television. Our ordinary occupation is not necessarily in front of the camera. We provide training and channel time and equipment for any citizens in Missoula and in the surrounding areas now who would like to create a television program to run on this station, to share ideas and emotions with other Missoulians. So in that spirit, we thought it would be good to provide a forum, limited as it is by the telephone, for people to call in with their thoughts and share with other Missoulians on some local level, so that you could at least talk back to the television set that's had so much horrific news for you in the last 8 days. So again, the number is on the screen if people want to call. And I am hoping to play no role, not even a devil's advocate role here, other than to simply facilitate the calls and make sure that people get on and make sure that they've had their full say without being pressured by the next call or an opinion that I might have. So the number is 542-6228. I can see it's a little after 9 Once again, I think if the appetite for calling in has waned, we'll wait a little while and then join our ordinarily scheduled programming. There may be a repeat of this program, but please bear in mind this program is live Wednesday, September 19th, a little after 9 o'clock, so that if you are watching the replay, whatever is going to happen is not up to you in that case. What's going to happen in the next 20 minutes or so is up to you, because I'm simply here to field calls from people that would like to express their thoughts. And so it looks like there's someone on line 1. Hi, caller, you're on. Thanks for calling.
You bet. Well, thanks for having the show.
Oh, sure.
I think it's important to be able to get this kind of message out to the rest of the country, or the local county.
Right. That's at least we're trying the local spin, because we know people get barrelfuls of the national news.
Right. I think it's real important to keep a message of hope going on. We've got smart people that we've put into power, or that just smart people are going to pop up when it's needed. But as far as the World Trade Center, rebuilding it, that's a big issue, because there's 5,000 people, or over 5,600 people somewhere in there, that people that have died there. And when you look at what's gone on in Vietnam, there's 46,000 Vietnam veterans that died. So in one day, we've had 10, 12% of the entire Vietnam casualties happen in a matter of minutes.
Oh yeah, no, that is staggering. I mean, I guess I'll be a little personal, a little conversational. I have a brother that lives in Brooklyn, and I grew up in the area, and I said, are things settling down? He said, well, the funerals alone are going to take us till December.
Oh, sure. I've got a cousin that was actually extremely lucky. She called in sick that day, but she worked in the World Trade Center.
Oh yeah, see, and that's a pretty remarkable thing.
All right, but I think we got to keep hope up there. But we also, we as a country have got to wake up. We've got to realize that our world has changed considerably in the last 8 days.
Yeah, I think another caller expressed that as well, or that maybe the world has changed and we didn't notice. We noticed in a hurry.
That's right.
How vulnerable things are, and how complicated all the internet working of technology and people are, and so on.
Right. But we also, I think, we got to keep in mind that there's 1.2 billion Muslims in the world, and I've traveled the world, and what I found out in my travels is 90% of the people in the world are people. They're good people. Then there's always the 10% that have their issues. That they're not necessarily bad people, but they're just not people you want to hang around.
Right.
One of that 10%, I'd say 1/1000th of that, those are the people that we're really after. And they're not in any one country, and they all have their how and why they got to the stage that they're at, whether you've got 40-year-olds with families.
Right.
And families getting on an airplane and killing themselves. I mean, there's some real issues that ultimately we have to get to. But right now, we've got to protect our country. We've got to understand. I think the easiest thing to do, I think what our leaders are doing right now is basically the right thing, but I think it's real important to follow the money. What's gone on what I've been able to pick up in the news is that before these guys got on the plane, somebody shorted a bunch of stock on the reinsurers of these buildings.
Oh, on the trade centers.
On the trade center, exactly, on the trade center. So they're hoping to profit from their actions.
Right.
If that's the case, then we should be able to trace that back to find out who is profiting. And if we take the money away from the bad guys and also go after them in a reasonable, good fashion, that's not going to, you're going after the bad guys, period, and you don't want to hurt anybody else. I think it's attainable. I think we're going to end up, I'm very concerned. I've got a 19-year-old son, and he, it's one thing to send him off to war, but it's another thing to have him come back in a body bag.
Yeah.
So we've got some real issues, but right now we just had 5,600 people die. We've got to wake up. We have to take care of ourselves. We've got to protect ourselves.
Yeah, those are all very good points.
So anyway, getting back to the, as far as the Muslims, just like Muslims have their 1/10 of 1% of the, so one out of a million people are really bad. The Christians also have the same issues, and so do the Jews. And if you look at all major religions, there's always that extreme aspect that's going on.
So you would encourage people not to do that group lumping, some of which you might have heard tonight.
Oh, absolutely. We can't group
we can't stereotype anybody, because as I said, I think 90% of the people in the world are just wonderful people. Love to be around them, and you just don't indiscriminately go around and killing good people. You're violating a basic construct of our society and how we're brought up.
And so you would see this more as a crime that can really be prosecuted, maybe not with the speed that the hurt people feel, maybe not with the speed that people want, but that it's still doable to treat it as a crime and prosecute it as a crime on a global level.
Absolutely, but this thing is not going to take years. This thing's going to take decades.
Yeah.
When you've got a 45-year-old man sitting on an airplane with family and children, or a wife and child, or wife and children, and killing himself, that didn't just start yesterday. He wasn't just suddenly hypnotized. There's some real issues out in the world, and we have to understand why these things are happening. It doesn't excuse why it happened. We still have to go after the perpetrators and bring them to justice.
Right.
But we shouldn't. We can't kill everybody. You can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Right. I hear you. The woman I mentioned that at the beginning of the segment, I interviewed someone who is doing a play based on being Jeanette Rankin, and it's at the Children's Theaters tomorrow night as well. But the quote she used was, when you're at the edge of a cliff, taking a step backward is progress. And I thought that was pretty good. There's just, I think, a lot of emotions people have, and a lot of very basic emotions people have. You know, the United States has never had destruction of this sort since the Civil War, and that's a very, very long time, and I think it's shocked almost everyone. You know.
And we have to accept the role as leaders, and we're leading. We can look at this as we have to look at this thing as an opportunity to bring the world together and get good people together and take care of the bad guys, or prevent them from doing what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, is there anything you'd like to add?
Oh, you're doing a good job.
All right. Well, thank you so much for calling.
You bet.
Right. Right. Okay. If people are just joining, I'm sorry to be a parrot this way, but if people are watching television these days like I do, there's a lot of channel surfing going on. You're watching Missoula Community Access Television on Wednesday, September 19th. We are just trying to provide what I hope is still a fairly neutral forum using our 2 telephone lines so that Missoulians can call in and express their ideas and thoughts on the horrific events of the last 8 days. And just tell us how you're feeling, what's going on. If anyone wants to make an announcement of a meeting, of a way that people can help, I'll be happy to write that down and repeat it. Missoula Community Access Television provides channel time, equipment, and training for Missoulians to make television programs. And in the spirit of providing that forum, we decided we'd use some staff time to create or to provide this service that people could call in now. I think we have another 15 minutes or so, 12 minutes or so that we've allotted this hour-and-a-half segment. We've logged a number of calls. The lines have never been jammed. I really do appreciate, though, the people that called up that were obviously nervous, and unaccustomed to public speaking, even on the telephone. I know that people do get a bit of a thrill, and maybe, we've noticed here, it's a lot of time teenagers get a thrill from call-in shows. Just to be able to talk back to the television and to make the television a little more humanly interactive for you instead of having to sit there and just absorb it, just having that exercise of being able to address your television set. You can pick up the phone. The number is 542-6228 and share your ideas. I'm here really just to field the calls. And I don't mind waiting. I don't know if we've provided you with scintillating television in Missoula, but we wanted you to have that opportunity. Public access really, in large measure, is about local concerns and local access. And we're very sensitive to the fact that those of you that have subscribed to cable and get the signal have an enormous amount of information coming at you from all over the globe and the nation, and very little, indeed, of television information coming at you on the very local level. So in the remaining minutes, if anyone wants to call in, the number is there on the screen. If you are watching a replay of this program, please take note of that. This program is live on Wednesday, September the 19th. And so anything that happens in the next 10 minutes or so is up to you now. Beyond that, you are watching a replay. And there might be someone here in the office. We'd be happy to answer your questions, but you're not going to be put on the cable at that time. I see the big graphic is up, so I'll just rest and see if anybody else wants to call in. If not, we'll revert to our, at this point, I'm going to suggest community message board, and Lori is nodding in agreement, because the movie that we have is for the visually impaired. So we have some classic movies in which a narrator describes what's going on, and that's what we were going to do. We've shown it a lot before. So instead we made the decision to open the cable waves to you folks in Missoula. And I want to thank everybody that called in, because I know that it does take a certain amount of bravery if you're not used to doing that sort of thing, to air your piece. And I hope that the callers that have followed through, you know, that everyone realizes that you know, you got to make very brief statements, and then the people that called after you that might have had a contrary opinion or didn't agree with you, or they might have just misinterpreted what you said also in that very brief period of time. So I'll give it another, jeepers, 30 seconds or so, and then I guess we'll go to our community message board. Please bear in mind that we do have a community message board here at MCAT. It is typically used by nonprofit groups, but there may be a lot of ad hoc activity going on in Missoula right now. You don't have to be a bona fide nonprofit group. It's certainly not for commercial purposes, but if there is even a church meeting, we put a lot of memorial services on that community message board on Friday. If it's some sort of ad hoc group of any sort, dovish, hawkish, we really do want you to know that the station is absolutely neutral in the information and points of view that we represent. It's our job to get them to you, but we certainly don't want to put a spin or tailor that message other than what Missoulians themselves generate. So I'm just going to ask Lori to wait 30 seconds and put on the community message board if we don't have any calls, and I'll wait for that time to elapse to see if anybody else wants to call in.